All right, now before I move ahead to anything, you can see three polls over here along with the PPT over here. So we have a yes no poll. This would be essentially for questions that the hosts would be asking during the presentation. We also have a short answer pod over here where you can put down your answers the time when we ask you questions. And we have a Q&A pod just at the bottom of your screen, which you can see. And that Q&A pod would be used at all point in time, to put down the questions that you have or any confusion that you have regarding to the session or the content or anything else apart regarding to the session or about e-GMAT, right? So with that, let's talk about GMAT sentence correction. So here in this webinar, we'll be talking about solving sentence correction questions with an unified methodology, and okay. So I am getting some people saying that I'm not audible. So let me bring in the yes no poll very quickly to check if my audio is clear or not. Just give me one moment, please. All right, let me end the poll and clear all the answers. Guys, am I clearly audible to all of you? Please mark a yes if I am. All right, it seems perfectly fine then. I am seeing everyone can hear me. For people at whose end the audio is not clear, I would suggest you to join through the Adobe Connect app. In the app, it's really very crystal clear at the app. If you join through the browser, there might be some disturbances at times. Right, so I'll end the poll here and let me also clear all the answers. All right, so before I move ahead with anything else, I would want you to know. I would want you to tell me answer me a very simple question. It's basically on your target GMAT score. So I'm going to open the short answer poll that you can see to the right of your screen, and I want you to tell me what is your target GMAT score. Please put your answers in the short answer poll that you can see to the right of your screen. All right, so lots of people in the 720 to 730 to 750 range. This really sounds very interesting. All right, so let me end the poll here and I'll also clear all the answers. And let's now look at why should you aim for a 730 score or a higher score, right? So basically, there are three major reasons why you should be aiming for a 730 plus score today. And what I'll do is I'll also take the pen so that I can annotate and hide out the palette. Yes. So the three things, there are three primary things which are the reasons that why you should aim for that 730 plus score today. One of the major things, and even you are aware of it, is that if you're aiming for a top B schools, the top B schools require a very high GMAT score nowadays, and at least in this time period where admissions have been as competitive as they ever have been. The second reason is scholarships. Now, the USB schools, give somewhere around $350 million worth of total scholarships, and in my opinion, 50% of that value of that total amount goes to people who score a 730 or higher on the GMAT. Now, this is a very important aspect when it comes to your MBA and its funding. The third reason, which is again often ignored a lot, is and which also is a very primary reason why a student should not settle for a lower ranked school, is when you look at the difference in the total earnings over a 10-year period for an MBA grad. You would be seeing that the delta is somewhere around $500,000 over a 10-year period, which again, in my opinion, is only going to go north side from here, is only going to increase from this part. Right, so we'll talk about all these statistics. So I'll take somewhere around 5 to 7 minutes to help you understand why a score of a 730 or a higher is really important as far as the GMAT is now considered. Right, so we talked about my opinions. Let's now look at some real data. Now, in this slide, what you can see is what you can see is the median scores have really shifted as if you compare 2014 to 2018, which is a period of 5 years. And you can see that over a 5 year span, you have around almost 20 points, 25 points increase in the scores that the top B schools are considering recently. The two things that you would be noticing here is there's no Harvard or Stanford, uh, you know, primarily because even in 2014 they were in the 730 zone. The second thing is now these are top B schools, and in these top B schools, the scores have increased in 23 out of the 25 tier 1 B schools that I'm talking about here. And the remaining two schools out of these 25 had their median scores almost in the same mark. Now, if you also look here, schools such as Columbia or MIT Sloan, 80% of the class had a score of 700 or higher. And in the student fraternity, it was a very common notion that if you don't have a score of 700, then don't even bother applying to these B schools. And all of this is despite the fact that we had around a 15% decline in the test taking population. So even though less people are taking the test, the scores went up because the starting salaries from these schools went up quite substantially. And this year we'll be having better applicants, and we predict that the scores would go higher than the previous year. So whatever you see here, consider that to be a +2, +3 to whatever you are seeing on the screen right here. Right? And here's a very good quote from Mark Ether, who's the managing director of Poets and Cons, and he tells that the bottom line remains that only the best of the best have a shot at getting of the B school. So even when the number of people who are taking the test has reduced by 15%, the people are scoring good, and the median score, the what you can see here, since the median score have increased, it's a clear indication that the quality of students have increased over the time. So what you had previously, a GMAT score of 700 or 710 would suffice. It's not the case that we can follow now. So basically, that is something that you have to keep in mind. And again, whatever the top B schools do, the tier 2 schools, which is the schools that are ranked from 26 to 50, they are also on the same lines. They just follow the same trend. And you can see some real big differences, the big increases in their scores. So if you see, Rice or USC, Marshall, you can see the scores have increased almost by 30 points, 20 points. So the increase in the top the top 26 to 50 schools are also very prevalent, and that is the reason your GMAT score also needs to increase from whatever you had decided previously, right? So this is something that you always have to keep in your mind. So if you have a target score of 700, I'm very sorry, but that's not going to work as far as the present situation is considered. So I was talking about some statistical data. Now let's talk about some anecdotal data over here. So Nishant, he scored a 690. Now he was an e-GMAT student. He scored a 690 on the GMAT, and he got rejected from the schools he applied to. He then took the test again and then scored a 740. After scoring a 740, he received a Fulbright scholarship from Ohio Fisher and received an admit from Columbia. Now, in my opinion, the very good things about applying to B schools such as Stakosmeal is that they give you feedback on why was your application rejected. In Nishant's case too, when he approached the outcome, they reverted saying that, we loved your candidacy, but your GMAT score is not up to the mark that we are looking for. And similar story for Pravi. Now she scored a 680 on the GMAT and applied to a bunch of B schools, but she failed to get interviewed invites from any of the B schools she applied to. She again took the test from a 680. She got to a 740 on the GMAT, and she updated her score on the application pages. And once she did that, in my opinion, it would be somewhere around 7 hours trying to getting the interview calls. Now she did that, and within 7 hours, she got 5 interview calls, and she got admits, and she also received a total scholarship worth of around $180,000 in total. Right? The next story that I'm going to talk about is of KK Krishnakant. He scored a 680, rejected by a lot of schools he applied to, and he was also applying in round two. Then he took the test again, improved from a 680 to a 720 on the GMAT, and then applied to round three. And remember that round three is traditionally the most challenging round to secure and admit. Now, not only did he get an admit, he also had full fellowships from all the four schools that he applied to, and total scholarship that he got would be somewhere around the $600,000 dollar mark. Right. So the bottom line again is almost the same. So that the GMAT score is way more important than what it used to be a few years or let's say a decade back. Now let's talk about the second reason. The second reason was about the scholarships. Now I've already told you that USB schools give somewhere around $350 million in scholarships to students who are applying to them. In our opinion, we think that 50% of that goes to students who score 730 or higher. Now, at e-GMAT, we have around 10,000 paying students every year. So we collect a lot of data pertaining to what scholarships are students getting with respect to their scores. And I've talked about this, right? That a lot of people who score above the 730 on the GMAT essentially essentially get a good amount of scholarship. So let's talk about this in a bit more detail. If you do the math here, and we have already talked about that 55%, that is almost half, is somewhere around $180 million, and they are distributed to about 6,000 students who score. Now, if you do the math over here, what you can see is on an average, if you score more than 740 or equal to 740, on an average, you get a total scholarship of around $40,000. Right? And as you also talk to B schools, they would really say that the scholarship amount really depends on two major factors. So one is your GMAT score. So the more you get on the GMAT, the higher the chances of getting a good scholarship amount. And secondly, your likability in the interview that you're taking with the B school. So both of these are the major things that you need to keep in mind as far as scholarships are considered. Now, we looked at some statistics. Now, again, let's look at some anecdotal data over here. Now, Mansi, an ex-GMATer, scored a 770, and he applied to all top B schools. She applied to Harvard, Wharton, Kellogg, Stanford, and then she chose to go to Harvard, where she got a scholarship of $90,000. Victor over here had a GMAT score of 770, and he received full scholarships from Ross and Kenan Flagler. Then the next student is Kong Bui. Now he had a GMAT 760, and he got 5 full fellowships. And not only that, he was also paid $17,000 every month, to study at Ohio Fisher. So that's something great that you can expect if you are going into a B school, right? And again, these guys as well, this proves the fact that to get to a good scholarship amount, your GMAT score is of prime value. And we have another use case, there's this student called, so his name is Ayush, and he's our former student. So Ayush scored a 710 and applied to a bunch of B schools, like Columbia, Ross, and he thought that he really did well in the interview, connected really well. But when the results of round 2 came out, he was waitlisted at both the places. So he then reached out to the schools and told them that, hey, we really connected during the interview, but why did this happen? To which, Columbia and Ross answered that, again, Ayush, we loved your candidacy, but essentially GMAT score is not that high, right? So he improved his GMAT score, he updated that score, and then he received an admit from both the B schools, that is both from Columbia and Ross. And then he's currently at Columbia. He got somewhere around $90,000 in total scholarship amount. You can go to our YouTube channel and listen to his story in detail, where he speaks about his entire journey in detail. right? So from a 710, he went on to a 720. Not only did he get admits to both these schools, he also got scholarships. And that is the importance of a really high GMAT score. And to all people who think, 700 would do the job for me, 710 might do the job for me, it might do the job for you, but essentially, getting to a very good B school with a good amount of scholarship would really become very difficult at your end. you know so please keep this in mind. Now you can see more about these instances, and you can go to our YouTube channel by simply clicking on this link, and we have somewhere around 130 plus success stories posted on our YouTube channel, and this is the largest collection of unedited videos on GMAT and MBA journeys over there.
Hi, everybody. I think we lost the audio on Atreya really quickly. I want to see, let me clear these results up here in the yes, no poll. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I just want to make sure in the yes, no poll that everybody can hear okay. Okay, so I've got about 253 of you in here, and let me try to get that number to at least 200 that I know can hear me. Okay, see some of you answering down in the Q&A pod. Let's use that top poll. I'm getting a message that Atreya is back, so I'm going to mute myself and let him take over.
Yeah, thank you, Stacey. Sorry about that, guys. I just had a mild internet breakdown. Can you? I'll end the poll over here, the yes no poll. I'll clear all the answers. Can you mark a yes if you can hear me now? All right, that sounds great. So I'm going to end the poll here, and thank you for your answers. And let's get to the next part. So what I was saying that we have lots and lots of these success stories over our YouTube channel, and you can just go to our YouTube channel and look at these success stories. Now, a very interesting fact is we have posted more success stories in the last 2 months than any other channel in the world has in their entire lifetime. So we really have some really incredible success rates recently. So go to our YouTube channel, and you can really see our the interviews over there, right? With that, a very important thing that John Fuller, who was the formal admissions director at Ross, he talked about, and according to him, someone with a GMAT 770 is much more likely to get a financial award, and by that he means a scholarship, with respect to a person who has a 670 on the GMAT. Reason being, this the B school wants to buy that GMAT high score, right? So getting to a very high score in GMAT is really very, very important at your end. And I've been saying this over and over again, but yes, a 730 or a 740 or 750 would give you a lot of advantage during your applications, which otherwise a 720 might not be giving you, right? All right. So with that, let's go to the third point, which is the difference in the total earnings. Now I've taken two very similar looking B schools, and let's compare these two B schools. One is Babson and the other is MIT. Now these B schools are located around 20 miles apart from each other in Boston, Massachusetts, and about 65% of the graduates from both these schools are able to find a job in the New England area. Now, arguably, the students also have similar opportunities. Now, when you see a difference in the starting salaries, what you can really see is the delta over here. MIT now has gone not it's not at 135, but now has gone to a 145K as their median base salary. So you can see that the difference over here is really very high, right? So you can see a difference of somewhere around $45,000. Now, if you take the case today, and if you compare that with a timeline of 10 or 15 years back, the difference was not that high. It was somewhere around $20,000, but now you can really see how this has increased. If you do the math and consider that at an average, you get somewhere around $45,000 every year, because you don't get bonus every year, and you also let's also extrapolate this linearly and scale that up. So what you can see is that the difference over here is somewhere around $450,000, almost around $500,000, and that is for schools which are located only 20 miles away from each other, right? So this is the importance of a very high GMAT score. Again, I hope that, and I almost guess that almost all of you would be looking for this $500,000, or you don't want to lose out on this amount, right? So the three reasons, and this 30-point difference, which is the difference between a 700 on the GMAT and a 730 on the GMAT, would be somewhere close to a $500,000 over a 10-year period. So that is the reason why you should always try to get to that high GMAT score, to get to that score of 730 or higher, and not settle for a score, let's say a 700 or a 710, right? So to do that, first things first, you need a very good you need a very good study plan at your end. Otherwise, you might be shooting in the dark, right? So basically, what you can do is you can book a one-on-one mentoring session with one of our GMAT experts. And I've seen the team; they are so nice at their job. They have done wonders for the students. So they'll give you milestones. They'll give you personalized milestones based on your strengths and weaknesses. They'll tell you about the precise estimates of timeline that you would be required to excel on the subsections of verbal and even quant in general. And then you can also track your improvement while studying. So they'll also tell you about the metrics that you need to track at your end to ensure that you go to that target GMAT score of yours. Right. So what you do is, I'm just gonna just one moment, please. I'm just gonna bring in the link for this, and I'm also going to, so this is the link, and just give me one more minute. I'm gonna launch this for all of you. So what you can do here, you can literally see that you know we have a lot of case studies, and I want all of you to look at the case studies, understand which is that case study that resonates with where you are going and where you are stuck at. Select that case study, select help me reach my target score, and then that would be redirected to another pane, which is the Calendly page, where you can book a call and book a one-on-one free session with one of our GMAT strategy experts. You also need to enter a few details, because in that manner we can also give you the best expert according to your needs, and that would be all. You would get a mail, and you would be able to talk to one of our GMAT strategy experts. Also, if you're an e-GMAT student, you have that on your platform. So you just log into e-GMAT, and then you get a personalized study planner tool which you can use to understand all these processes. Also, make sure if you are an e-GMAT student, you attend the onboarding sessions which happen twice a week, and also attend the test readiness sessions, and see all the guidance videos for the 3 stages of learning. Right. So with that, we would move ahead with the sentence correction part. So let's invite Stacy, who is my colleague, and she'll take the session up from now. All right then.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this study plan link over here. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I just want to do another quick audio check to make sure that my audio is clear. So if you can click in that yes, no box at the top of right of the screen, and let me know if you can hear me okay. Quick introduction. My name is Stacy Trepanier. I am a sentence correction expert here at e-GMAT, and I'm an English teacher by trade. So get ready for me to ask you a lot of questions. I'm very much a questioner as we're going through the learning process, especially learning how to deal with sentence correction. Lots of questions need to be asked and answered as you work through the process. So it looks like the majority of you can hear me. I've got about 250 of you in here. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more participation as we get moving, because you're only going to get out of this next portion of the session what you actually put in. So with that being said, hopefully everybody has this study plan link. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way here, and so we can move forward. So we are going to start with a full-length original SC question. So let me get the yes/no poll out of here and bring up the poll for solving the question. Get that adjusted. So it doesn't want to adjust for me. Adobe's being glitchy. Apologies. Okay, so I'm going to open this poll. If I can get you all to click on still solving out of the answer choices. We're going to click on the bottom. Again, we have about 248 people in here, so I'd like to see at least 150 people clicking on that still solving button down there. And that way we can get, those of you that are up in the answer choices, we're not answering the question yet. Click on that still solving button down at the bottom. All right, let's keep going. A few more people. Come back and participate. I want you guys to solve this full-length question. I want you to solve this with your current approach. So I want you, however you would approach a sentence correction question, that is how I want you to approach this question. I don't have the question up yet. It just still says question 1. I'm waiting to get everybody's participation. I need to see that percentage of who is participating in that still solving button down below at the top of the screen, so I can see how many people. Let's get about 25 more people to click on still solving, and then we're going to go ahead and move forward. We're almost there. The way we're going to do timing with this, typically we want you solving SC questions in about 90 seconds, but I'm going to kind of go with the pulse of the class here. I'm going to wait until about 50% of you have answered the question. When I see about 50 to 60% of you have locked in your answers, I'm going to go ahead and give you that 30-second warning. And then once I see that, once that 30 seconds is up, then I will end the poll and we will see how everyone answered and work our way through the question. All right, it looks like we have a decent number of people participating, so I'm going to go ahead, give you the question. I'm going to mute myself. Best of luck. About 30 seconds remaining. Okay, 30 seconds is up. I have about 15 of you that need to lock in your final answers. You can do so in the next 10 seconds. Three, about 8 of you. I don't want to cut you off, but we do want to keep moving. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, if there's 7 of you that still haven't locked in an answer, if you want to do so, please do so now. I'm going to end the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, perfect. So let's see if my annotations are going to work for me. It looks like about 6% of you landed on choice A, about 18%, oops, sorry for the ugly annotations, landed on choice B, 22% landed on choice C. This is pretty interesting. 7% on D, and 45% on choice E. So pretty interesting breakout here, and it'll make for a good discussion. I'm going to keep the answer a secret just for a little bit longer because I want to discuss a few things. So I want you to think about your thought process that you used when solving this question and what was your approach. Because as an educator, I see lots of students take different approaches to tests. And when we're dealing with GMAT, you have to be very conscientious of how you approach sentence correction. Because some of those typical tips and tricks that you may have used in the past are not going to work in this area for you. So one very popular thought process is using this splits method. It's what I call the fast food approach. So we read through the question very quickly, and then we scan the answer choices looking for patterns or similarities. So I'm going to bring back the yes/no poll, and we're going to go through this approach, and then I'm going to ask you guys to be honest with me and let me know who's utilizing this approach. So I'm going to end the poll really quickly. So if you scan through the question, you're going to notice right away, and you've got some grammatical savvy, and so you notice right away, okay, choices A and B here don't have by them, okay? But C, D, and E do have by. And I notice in the question that I have less by up here, so I must need than by because I know my grammar well enough to know that I need to have parallel entities when I have this structure. So I'm going to reject choices A and B right away because they don't have that by. And then I go down to my next 3 choices, and I see C, D, and E all have by. And then I look at C, and I read that through, and I'm by the coming to an end of, and that seems really strange and awkward, super lengthy, not necessarily, smooth, most concise way of saying things. So I reject choice C, and then I'm down to D and E, and E looks pretty concise. It has by the end of, which is parallel to less by. So both are noun entities, so grammatically that looks good. So I reject choice D and I go with choice E. And that's what 45% of you did. So I want to know in the yes no poll, I'm going to clear the answers, how many of you are approaching sentence correction with this kind of fast food method? And what I mean by fast food is you need to get something in your stomach really quickly. We need to get done because of time constraints. And we go through it really quickly. And yes, fast food solves our problem, but long term, we know it's not good for us. Okay? So I'm seeing about 62% of you are telling me, and you can be honest, I'm not broadcasting the results, only I can see them. So the majority of you are using this approach. And if you're using this approach, as I said, long term, it's not going to work for you, because in this situation, you got to the wrong answer, because choice E is not the correct answer. Okay, so this type of approach, this fast food method of scanning and tricks and tips, is not going to get you to that 90th percentile in GMAT SC. So I need you to check that, and maybe a New Year's diet as far as our approach to sentence correction. No more fast food for us. We need to look at this, because these original questions, this is from the Advanced Official Guide. You do need to know some grammar to answer this question, but grammar is not the key. Grammar is the way we think about language. It's a tool we use to communicate language. But if we don't know what's being communicated, then we don't know what grammar needs to be used. Okay? You can't get to that 90th percentile with this splits pattern recognition. It's not going to work for you. We've just proven that. If you didn't believe any of that before, hopefully seeing the data on this question will help wake you up to that a little bit, because these difficult questions and GMAT SC is all about communication. These business schools want to know, can you communicate clearly? Can you recognize clear communication? Because it becomes essential in the business world that we don't miscommunicate. So we are going to move forward with this using e-GMAT's meaning-based approach. And I will tell you, when I first came to e-GMAT, I was a grammar teacher by nature. That's what I wanted to look at. And this approach seemed odd to me. But when I started looking at and studying GMAT and thinking about what I knew about the English language, it became very clear to me that you have to use the meaning-based approach, because that's what it is all about. That's what we teach writers to do. So let's answer this question using this meaning-based approach so we can really explain to everybody how we get to that analysis. So the first step that you need to use is working through the question and really pausing at chunks of the question to understand what is being communicated. I call it active reading. Taking little notes, marking the sentences up as you're practicing to train your mind to do this. So as we look at this sentence, we see the overall slackening of growth and productivity is influenced. So right away, I know I have the slackening of growth, and this growth is influenced. And then I stop and I say, okay, I have the slackening of growth influenced. What is it influenced by? So then I keep reading. Less by government regulation. So I know this is my first reason, although that is significant for industries like mining. So I know that this regulation is significant for industries like mining. Then the coming to an end of, so now I know that this slackening is influenced by government regulation, but that is less than the coming to an end of. So now I have my second reasoning for this slackening, a period of rapid growth in agriculture productivity. So the sentence, as I paused and assessed the meaning of it, I'm going to pull key aspects out. And what I mean by key aspects are these main ideas. So the first main idea is that I pull is that this sentence is explaining the factors behind the reduction in growth and productivity. The second idea is that we have two aspects, right? We have the government regulation, which we labeled as we were doing our active reading, and we have the fact that a period of rapid growth in agriculture productivity is coming to an end. Okay, so that's all pretty clear. The majority of this is falling in my non-underlined portion of the sentence. The last piece I have to pull together is the stated comparison, which we have less by government regulation than the coming to an end of a period. So now I know that my second reason actually carries a little bit more impact or more weight than my first reason. Okay, so the meaning seems clear. Now that I've worked to piece this whole sentence together, I really want to look at this underlined portion right here. And I want to understand, what is this portion doing? Why is this portion underlined? Okay, so then I have to ask myself, and I'm going to bring in a new poll really quickly. And I want you to tell me, let me adjust this for you. I want you to think about that underlined portion. And I want you to tell me, what does the coming to an end of mean? Look at the choices. Does it mean the period is slowly drawing to an end? Does it mean the action of ending a period? Or does it mean the end of the period? So what does the coming to an end of mean? I'm going to give you guys about 30 more seconds to think about this and lock in your votes. About 10 more seconds if you want to participate in this thought-provoking point. What does coming to an end of mean? And this becomes really important, especially because this is the underlined portion of the sentence. So we have to understand what our buddy, the author here, is trying to communicate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. I'm going to broadcast your results here. Okay, now let's look at this with simple sentences. Okay, so the woolly mammoth became extinct by the coming to the end of the Ice Age. So in this simple example, we have our woolly mammoths down below, and we see that in point A, right, we have our timing years here. Point A, we have a whole bunch of woolly mammoths, right, this herd of them. And as the time period winds down, we see that our woolly mammoths get fewer and fewer. And as the end of the time period approaches, by the coming to an end of, they become extinct. So really, this period is slowly approaching. The period is winding down, right? We were all looking forward, starting in April, to the coming to an end of 2020, right? The approaching end. Now, if we look at choice B, the action of ending the period, that would be similar to saying the woolly mammoth became extinct by the ending of the Ice Age. Now, that would indicate some type of action that, like, somebody acted. In fact, the way this reads, the woolly mammoth did something to end the Ice Age, right? Which doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't make sense for the action of ending and then boom, no more woolly mammoths. So choice B gives us that feeling of action, that somebody or something did something to and ended the period. Now choice C, the end of the period. Now this would indicate not this gradual approaching end. This would indicate that just boom, D happened and no more woolly mammoths, because we don't have that winding down sense that we get with choice A. We have that finite totality that it's the end of the period and boom, there's no more woolly mammoths. So does everybody understand? Can everybody let me know in that yes, no poll, how are we feeling about this meaning and how we need to communicate in this sentence the winding down of the period? That this period is approaching, and that the big difference we need to note here is between choices A and C. Is that pretty clear to everybody? Because I had, about 50 of you telling me B and C. Now, if I take this poll away, let me hide this poll. And then I'm going to bring back your answer choices now that we've done this meaning analysis. And I'm going to go back to the original question. Yeah, let me go back really quickly. Sorry. Here we go. Now I'm going to go back to the original question. And I want to see if I reopen this poll, if you guys, who wants to change their answer now that we've done this meaning analysis? How many of you would like to shift your answer now that we've discussed the meaning of this underlined portion, the coming to an end of? Let me give you guys about 30 seconds if you want to switch your answers here. And think about that meaning discussion we had. What does by the coming to an end of mean versus by the end of mean? Which answer is going to be the best answer? About 5 seconds. I'm going to end the poll. Three, two, one. Okay. Oh, I still see some movement. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Now I'm going to broadcast the results and look at how things have changed. So we only had 22% before. Now we have 58% based off of that meaning. And only 14% of you do I still need to convince about choice E. So this shows that how really pausing and thinking about the meaning becomes really, really important. So let's go to those specific answer choices. We have those key aspects there for a specific reason. So keep our woolly mammoth sentences in mind. Sometimes making those linear, simple sentences to help you understand becomes really, really important. So we're going to really focus on this second point. Now, my next question for everyone is these main ideas that we pulled out. Was everybody able to pull all of these main ideas out? If not, how many of you missed one of these aspects? I'm not going to broadcast the results, but let me know in this poll, did you miss aspect 1 that talked about the factors behind productivity? Did you miss aspect 2.1 that there was government regulation? Did you miss aspect 2.2 about the fact of that period of rapid growth is coming to an end, meaning that it was winding down? Or did you miss the stated comparison? What were you not able to get? And this is really important to be critical of yourself and be really, really honest and say, okay, I really did miss this part. So I'm seeing the majority of you are telling me that this second one, aspect 2.2, is showing us the most popular. So 2.2, and notice that if you missed this aspect, this coming to an end or this approach, then you're not understanding that underlying portion of the sentence. And that becomes really, really important. Okay, so let me go ahead and end this poll. So it's interesting to see that the majority of you were not seeing that underlined portion of the sentence, and you weren't doing that analysis about that. So we have to make sure that we do that. So then once we have that meaning and we've spent that time, and I know some of you are thinking, how can I do this in 90 seconds? Right now, you're not going to do this in 90 seconds, but you're going to start practice doing this. So when you get to that test day, you can do this much quicker, and then it's just second nature. And after we do that meaning analysis, then we're going to go to that error analysis, because now we understand what the meaning is. We're understanding what is being communicated. Now we have to say, okay, has the author expressed this in a grammatically correct manner? And so we do the error analysis. And when we do our error analysis and we do our quick grammar check, subject verb pairs, are the verbs all in agreement? Are there any messed up pronouns or modifiers? We see, oh, parallelism, right? We have less by up here, and we know from our tools of grammar that we need than by down here, so we have a missing by. So now we know that we need to find a sentence that communicates that productivity is coming to an end, that communicates that approaching end in a grammatically parallel manner. So we can indeed reject choice A and B. Okay, so if you landed on choice A, chances are that you missed the parallelism error. Okay, you do have that expression, the coming to an end of, but choice A is grammatically incorrect because of the parallelism error. Choice B, you missed the parallelism error, and you probably missed the meaning of what the coming to an end of means, because the ending of, again, shows somebody taking action. So now we're left with choices C, D, and E, because all of those have by, all of those correct our parallelism error. Okay, so when we have that, then we know we have to focus on that second aspect, is coming to an end. Okay, so productivity is coming to an end, that ending approach. And I see a question in the Q&A pod. Can we say that we are very close to the end? The sentence, as per the meaning, is giving us that winding down approach. So yes, we're coming to the end of, but we need that sense of movement that we get through coming to an end of. So we're looking for that to be communicated. So when we look at choice D, we see rejection happens by the action of ending the send period, right? Remember that woolly mammoth. The woolly mammoth became extinct by ending the ice age. Somebody's doing this action. And that's not our original analysis, okay? Nobody did anything to end this period. The coming to an end is approaching, all right? So that being said, and I'm going to open this. So does everybody see that this action, there's no action taking place? Nobody's ending this action here, okay? So we reject choice D based on that. Now, we have to use that meaning and logic to make the final decision, okay, between choices C and E. Those are our two big choices. And when we think about that communication, the woolly mammoth sentence, the woolly mammoth became extinct by the end of the ice age. That is our hard end. That's that choice D that we saw, where all the woolly mammoths were gone. That's not what the author is communicating. The author saying that the end was approaching, as that end was, as the ice age was coming to an end, they became extinct. As the period of agricultural growth and productivity was coming to an end, as that period was, the end of that period was approaching, we saw that growth slackening. Okay, are there any issues with this between choices C and E? Are we, let me bring back that yes no poll. I want to make sure everybody's in full understanding. Let me clear these. Are we all good with understanding why choice C is the correct choice? So meaning. The meaning really has to be clear. Okay? And this is a pretty straightforward sentence. This isn't a sentence where we have to infer a lot, right? This is a hard sentence that GMAT's given us, but they've been pretty straightforward with the meaning. Okay, so when they're this straightforward, we really need to make sure that we do our friend the author a favor and help them get there with that grammatically correct manner. So always spend that time at the beginning of the sentence understanding the meaning, working through it, okay? Making sure that you know what the author is communicating, that you know what the author intends to say, and then you can do that in a grammatically correct manner. Okay, but you have to spend the time with the original sentence. This was from OG Advanced, in case any of you want to look this up later. We can see here that splits in grammar helped us reject those first two choices. Okay, and that's pretty typical with GMAT. They will allow us to get to those bottom two choices, but then we really have to understand what is grammatically correct and that meaning to get to the correct answer. In order to get to choice C on this one, as you guys proved with your own statistics, the majority of you chose choice E until we discussed that meaning. Okay? So if you don't believe me that this approach works, as Atreya was telling you, we have lots of stories on YouTube. You can watch the debriefs. You can have other students testify to how this approach has helped them. And you can also jump on LinkedIn to connect with other students to see what their journey was like. Okay, so who's ready to solve question 2? I'm going to reopen this poll. Please click on Still Solving. In the top poll, I'm going to close. There's about 227 of you in here. It'd be awesome if we could get to at least 150 of you participating. And I want you to take what we just learned from sentence 1 and apply it to sentence 2. We're at 117. I need the rest of you to wake up. Click, click, click. Let's go. About 10 more, and I'm going to start this question. I don't have time to go back to the last question that we did, but it will be available on the recording later. I see somebody wants me to go back to the question. But it will be available later in the recording. We need to keep moving forward in order to stay on track. We've got 4 questions planned. All right, awesome. I hit my 150. So I'm going to go ahead. Same rules as last time. When I see about half of you to 60% of you have clicked your answers in, I'll give you that 30-second warning, and then we will discuss the question. Best of luck. 30 seconds remaining. Okay, I have about 18 of you that need to lock in those final answers. If I can get you to do that in the next 15 seconds before I end the poll, that would be awesome. All right, we're almost there, about 7 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, final chance to lock in answers. There's about 5 of you. I really want everyone to answer the question if possible. All right, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close it. All right. So hopefully this question was a little bit better for some of you. Get ready to type in that bottom short answer poll. I'm going to reopen it because I'm going to ask you a few questions here. So we're going to use that e-GMAT meaning-based approach again to tackle this question. So we start reading as we did before using our pause points. Although appearing less appetizing than most of their red and round supermarket cousins, heirloom tomatoes. So I know that I'm dealing with tomatoes, and these tomatoes appear less appetizing than their supermarket cousins. So we're talking about 2 different types of tomatoes. And as I keep reading, I find out that heirloom tomatoes grown from seeds saved during the previous year. So I know striped or have plenty of bumps and bruises. Heirlooms are more flavorful and thus in increasing demand. So even though they may be a bit ugly, they're more flavorful, and because they're more flavorful, they're increasing in demand. So the meaning seems pretty straightforward here, but I am going to pull those key aspects. Now, last time when we pulled aspects, we just pulled those main ideas out of the sentence. Another way to get those key aspects pulled is by asking yourself leading questions. Okay, so when we ask ourselves leading questions, I'm going to ask you all to think about these, and I want you to type your answers into the into that short answer pod at the bottom of the screen. And feel free to abbreviate. So my first question is, what appears less appetizing than most of their round and red supermarket cousins? So pop your answers into that bottom poll. I'm going to wait until I at least get a full shot of. Okay, good. So it seems pretty clear to everyone that it's heirloom tomatoes. Awesome. Now, new leading question. What are grown from seeds saved during the previous year? Guys, use the pod to the far right of your screen, not the Q&A pod, the short answer pod where it says answer question 2. All right, awesome. So it looks like all of you are saying again, heirloom tomatoes. Perfect. Now, what are often green and striped or have bumps and bruises? Heirloom tomatoes again. Yes. Okay, I know. A few redundancies here, but good. Heirloom tomatoes. And then the final question. What are more flavorful, hence increasing in demand? Let me get a few more answers in here. Okay, good. Heirloom tomatoes. So we've asked ourselves all of these questions about this sentence. And from those leading questions, you can pull your key aspects. Heirloom tomatoes are grown from seeds. They're often green and striped, have bumps and bruises, so I know they're ugly. They're more flavorful. So pretty straightforward sentence. Now, my next question is, what is the contrast indicated by the word although? Because that becomes a meaning check. We have to understand the contrast. And anytime we see although sitting here, we know we need that meaning to check our understanding of that contrast. So is it between aspect 1 and 2, aspect 2 and 3, aspect 3 and 4, aspect 2 and 4? So I'm seeing a few different, they are ugly, but they taste great. They're ugly, they're very good. Appearance. Okay, good. Good. So lots of people are seeing the contrast. The contrast is indeed between they appear less appetizing than their supermarket cousins, but they are more flavorful. So the majority of you can see that. That tells me you really stopped to think about the meaning of the sentence. Excellent. You learned from our first question. That's awesome. So, is there grammatical error? Absolutely. Stop and look at this. Okay, we know the meaning. Now we have to say, is there that grammatical error? And indeed there is. We don't have a verb for heirloom tomatoes here. We've got a subject verb must exist error. And a lot of students, this is where a lot of students make this mistake. A lot of students think grown is the verb, which it's not. That is a modifier. Okay? And you have to stop and look here. They has two verbs here. Heirlooms has a verb here. But this subject up here does not have a verb. So we have that subject verb must exist rule. The other piece of the sentence that tends to trip students up are these dashes here. That's a structural thing. Don't let the dashes or the structure mess you up. Those are the same as commas. Okay, so no reason to get hung up on those punctuation structures. So, meaning is straightforward and clear. I'm going to broadcast your results. As you're doing your meaning analysis, you can see where those errors exist. So we reject choice A because we don't have a verb. Choice, and only 4% of you landed, I'll write your statistics over here, only 4% of you landed on choice A. So that tells me the majority of you were able to understand the meaning and see that, spot that subject verb error. Now choice B, which I am so excited to see 47% of you landed it on choice B, which is indeed the correct answer. So this tells me that, one, you took the time to understand the meaning, you took the time to understand the contrast, and then you were able to spot that subject verb must exist error. So very, very well done. Now, choice C, only 12% of you landed there. So if you rejected choice A, but you picked choice C, you did not spend the time to see that heirloom tomatoes, which yes is put in this comma pair, doesn't have a subject. Okay? So that would be where that hiccup is with choice C. Choice D, which 22% of you picked, so you were looking for that correct grammatical structure, but from a meaning perspective, there's no contrast that's presented, although has been completely removed from the sentence. And we know from our meaning analysis that we need that contrast between how these heirloom tomatoes appear contrasted with how they taste. So the 22% of you that landed on choice D need to make sure you spend that time with that meaning and that you really understand what contrast is being implied there, okay, and being communicated, and then find the way to communicate that. And then only 3% of you landed on choice E, which again, we have that missing verb for heirloom tomatoes. So how is everybody feeling with our heirloom tomato? I'm going to reopen this yes, no poll. Give me a thumbs up in that yes, no poll if you're feeling pretty confident with this meaning, with spotting taking the time, using leading questions to help you pull those key aspects to meaning. And anytime you get a sense of contrast, that you're really stopping and saying, okay, which two elements are being contrasted here? I've only got only 67. I need a little bit more participation in these polls, guys. I want to make sure and gals, I want to make sure everybody is on board. I see a few of you aren't feeling confident. You can either, if it's a general question that will benefit everybody, pop it in that short answer Q&A, or you can also pop it in. So I'm seeing what's the verb. So the verb in the correct answer choice, heirloom tomatoes appear. Okay? And grown is a modifier. You have to stop and look at this in the original sentence. Heirloom tomatoes grown from seeds saved during the previous years. This is describing the heirloom tomatoes. Okay? It's modifying information that's describing how these heirloom tomatoes come to be. Okay, so that becomes really important. That's a very common mistake. We can't have our subject and verb separated by a comma. So simply in the original analysis, if you thought grown was the verb, look at that comma. Okay? All right, it looks like the majority of you are feeling pretty confident. Yes, appear is the verb. Good job. All right, any other questions we will take up in the Q&A pod? Really just to drive this point home, with these sentences, again, in this sentence, the meaning was pretty straightforward. We didn't have to work very hard to infer that meaning, but even when it seems pretty straightforward, you can't rush through that meaning analysis. You have to extract all those aspects. Ask yourself those leading questions, especially when dealing with subject verb must exist or must make sense. If we're missing a verb, the sentence will give you that sense of feeling of incompleteness. Okay? So make sure you're taking that time. Ask yourselves those leading questions to get yourself to that point. Okay? Big observations from questions 1 and 2. Again, both questions, one from OG questions, one from advanced, one from the verbal review. Splits not possible with either one of them, especially when the second sentence was asked. We couldn't get there by splits. You really had to look at the two. We always got down to two questions in both of them, where the questions were grammatically correct, but the meaning changed. Okay, so we need to look at, in the second question, it was that removal of that contrast. So 100% meaning is required to answer both of these questions. Okay, does everybody understand that meaning, that essence of that meaning? Because I really want you, when Shada comes on, she's going to pick up some challenging sentences where the meaning's not going to be as straightforward. So I need to make sure everybody is really engaged with this, looking for this meaning and spending that time with that meaning. Okay, so there's about 200 of you in here. So I hope to see more yeses in that yes-no poll about you embracing that meaning. Okay, so study plans. Really quickly before Shraddha does her 2 questions with you. If you are an e-GMAT student or you're one of our free trial users, you need to make sure that you're utilizing those study plans. So our e-GMAT students, you should work with customer service. They're an awesome team. They will help you set up a personalized study plan, understand your stages of learning, what you need to tackle, where you need to go, what you need to spend your time on. Make sure you attend the onboarding session. It happens twice a week. That way, you know how everything works. You don't feel lost in the platform. Attend the test readiness sessions and have all those guidance videos there for you to help you move forward. So make sure that you're really working with our customer success team for that. If you're a free trial student, you're going to work with our strategy experts. Again, a great group, a wonderful team. Take the Sigma X mock test, get your starting ability so you know where you're at, have that target score in mind. And then as you work with that GMAT strategy expert team, you'll get your target milestones, you'll understand the metrics. So data driven. It gives you more data to work with and really understand where you're at, and it helps you set your goals to track your improvement and make sure you reach that target goal. So you can click on that, book your slot, and make sure that you get in. And there's that link for that study plan again up above. Get your appointment slots. They fill up super fast. So we want to make sure that everybody that wants that opportunity can get that opportunity. And I can't tell you, these 2 teams work amazing feats with students to help you really get that personalization that you need to be successful. And with that being said, I'm going to clear out my yes no poll. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to say once again, Happy New Year to everybody. I'm going to turn the session over to Shraddha. She is going to take you through the next 2 questions. Best of luck, and I hope everyone has continued success.
Hello, everyone. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, could you please click on yes in the yes or no poll so that I know that I am clear from, okay, I see quick answers trickling in. So hello, everyone. Hope you all are having a great session so far. My name is Shraddha. I'm the verbal expert with e-GMAT. So let's talk about question number 3 and 4. We have 2 more questions to go. So far, the 2 questions that you solved, and Stacy did a great job with those 2, with the focus on the meaning. The pattern was there that the original sentence presented the meaning clearly. Yes, it had a little bit of grammatical error, but that grammatical error did not come in the way of the sentence presenting the intended logical meaning. Just a few minutes ago, I got this question in the Q&A poll that, hey, what Q&A pod that what do we do when the sentence does not present logical meaning? Then how do we approach this question? And I'm 100% sure that most of you would be having this question in mind. So the next 2 questions are going to be such questions in which the meaning is not going to be clear, and we are going to show you the meaning-based approach, how it works so wonderfully on such questions as well. Okay, so with that, without wasting any more time, let me get the polls first. I'm not going to show you the question as of yet. I'm going to present the poll to you. If you could quickly click on still solving so that I know how many of you today are solving this question with me, because I'm not going to time you. As soon as I get about 60% of the class, they've given their answers, I will then give you a little countdown, and then we will start discussing the questions. So, all right. Anybody else who would like to participate in this one? I've gotten 114 responses. Can I get about 120, 17, 18, 19, 20? Great. Okay. So let's take a look at question number 3. There you go. Keep the meaning, stay focused on meaning, okay? All right. Last 30 seconds, as most of you are done. I just want to give time to those who are yet thinking about it. So let's wind this one up. Last 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, here I end the poll. All right. So let's take a look at this sentence. Once again, we are going to apply the e-GMAT's 3-step meaning-based method. The first step, what do we do in here? We understand the meaning of the sentence by breaking it down into smaller chunks. So this sentence is talking about many of them chiseled from solid rock centuries ago. So it's talking about some entity that was chiseled from solid rocks centuries ago. Now, what does the word chiseled means here? Carved out. Something that was carved out from solid rock centuries ago. The next part of the sentence says, the mountainous regions of northern Ethiopia are dotted with hundreds of monasteries. So this part of the sentence talks about, basically this part of the sentence talks about the mountainous regions. The location has been given, northern Ethiopia. They are dotted with hundreds of monasteries. It means that we can see hundreds of monasteries on this mountainous region. So these are the 3 main points that we extract from the sentence, as you see, as aspects. the sentence talks about mountainous regions of northern Ethiopia. Then it says that these regions were chiseled from solid rock centuries ago, because this is how the sentence is written. And then the aspect 3 says that these regions are marked with hundreds of monasteries. Okay, so these are the 3 key meanings that we extract from this sentence. Now, if I were to ask you this question, take a look at aspect 2. Does this make sense? Take to yes or no poll and let me know. And guys, I just want to let you know that whenever we ask you a question, the answers should come through the polls. The Q&A pod is for you to ask a question to us. Okay? So whenever you are asked a question, please put in your response in the polls. Okay, so I've gotten quite a bit of answers here. Answers are still trickling in. But if I were to broadcast your result, you will see that majority of you are saying that this aspect over here, aspect 2, is not logical, and that is absolutely correct. Come to think about it, the mountainous regions are not carved out of the rocks. The mountainous regions are made up of rocks. Nobody can carve out mountainous regions from a solid rock, from a single piece of rock. No, we cannot do that. From a single piece of rock, probably we can carve out a statue or a temple or some sort of construction, but mountain ranges, no, that's not possible. Okay, so mountainous regions cannot be carved out from a solid rock. So definitely aspect 2 is not logical. Now, so we know that something has definitely been carved out in this sentence, but what is that entity that will make sense if we say that this has been carved out from the rock? Now, definitely the sentence is not presenting a logical answer, logical meaning, but all of us are logical people here. So what are we going to do is that we are going to break this sentence down. And then we see, okay, first part is talking about something that has been chiseled from solid rock. The second part of the sentence is talking about mountainous regions. Well, this cannot be carved out. And then we have hundreds of monasteries. Now, if we put 2 plus 2 together, we can certainly say that, yes, it makes sense to say that these monasteries, these small little monasteries, were carved out from the solid rock, and that's what we see in these mountainous regions. Okay, so what did we do here? Even if the sentence presents illogical meaning, what we do is that we break down the sentence and we try to interconnect various elements in the sentence logically, because again, tell yourself, all of you are logical people here. We have this ability to understand simple, basic logic, and hence, by paying attention to the context of the sentence, by paying attention to several entities according to what information they are presenting in the sentence, we can interconnect or link meaningful chunks together. It's like playing your puzzle, putting the pieces of puzzle together. You recognize the pattern. You see that, hey, if I put this piece next to this particular piece, then only my visual is going to appear correct. Okay, so treat such sentences like puzzle pieces, where all you need to do is that if they do not make sense, break them down and then interconnect logical elements together to extract the intended logical meaning when the original sentence fails to do so. Okay, so now that we have put the meaning together, we can clearly see that original sentence is not presenting the meaning because the mountainous regions cannot be chiseled out of solid rock. So what did we do here? We first read the sentence, we extracted the meaning presented by the sentence as it is, okay, on its face value, but then we understood that, hey, the sentence is not making proper sense. We just did not leave the sentence there and moved on to answer choices. No, we took an extra step of inferring the meaning by interconnecting logical elements together, or by interconnecting different entities logically together. So once again, just wanted to let you know, this is an advanced official question, totally communication based. So we are dealing with a difficult question here, 700 level. Okay. So now that we understand the meaning of the sentence, so we definitely know that this part is totally wrong because it's not presenting the logical meaning. But apart from this meaning error, if we look at the grammar of the sentence, there is nothing wrong. So once again, this sentence proves that it is not the grammar that decides the correctness of the sentence. It is the meaning. Meaning is the key to crack GMAT SC. Grammatically, there is nothing wrong in this sentence, but the meaning that this sentence presents is absolutely illogical. So we need to fix this logic in this sentence by connecting many of them chiseled with hundreds of monasteries. That's all we need to do. Change the placement of the modifier so that it connects with the correct entity. Now, if I am to broadcast the result, we saw the contest between D and E, and it is D actually that is the winner. Let's see if D is really the correct answer. But before that, choice B is incorrect because firstly, it presents the same illogical meaning. Chiseled from solid rock centuries ago, the mountainous regions of northern Ethiopia. So aspect 2 issue still remains in choice B. So those who rejected choice A on this basis, on the meaning of on the basis of the meaning that it presented, you should have rejected choice B as well, because choice B is doing this again. Another error, the grammatical error that we see in this sentence is the usage of many hundreds of monasteries. Now, hundreds of monasteries already tell us that there are so many monasteries there. Okay, usage of many along with hundreds leads to redundancy error. So choice B has the grammatical error as well as the same logical error that we saw with choice A. Let's take a look at choice C. Hundreds of monasteries, many of them chiseled from solid rock centuries ago. So this choice actually corrects our logical aspect over here. We get this very logical aspect that we were looking for through our analysis because we understand the intended logic in the sentence. However, choice C is not the right answer because even if the logic is fine, the grammar is not fine over here. And that grammatical error is the usage of this verb, which is in present continuous tense. What does this mean? Hundreds of monasteries are dotting the mountainous regions of northern Ethiopia. The use of present continuous tense presents an action that is going on right now at this point in time as we speak. But that is not the meaning of the sentence. The sentence wants to present a general information, and hence there is no sense of continuity that is happening over here. Hence, the usage of the present continuous tense is incorrect. We have certain simple sentences over here. Construction cranes are dotting the skyline here. What does it mean? If you cross the streets of this particular city, you will be able to see the constructing cranes in the skyline of the city, and that's why are dotting. But what does this sentence mean? Construction cranes dotted the skyline here. That means if you were to pass these roads, say a month ago or 2 months ago, then you could see the construction cranes. But if you pass the road now, you will not see those cranes because they dotted the skyline in the past. They are not here in the present. Okay. So these are very basic meanings, very basic usages of the of different verbs that we use in the sentence. So choice C is out. Now, choice D and choice E. Choice D again fixes the logic, which is absolutely fine. The mountainous regions of northern Ethiopia are dotted with hundreds of monasteries. So no grammatical issue, no logical issue so far, many of which are chiseled from solid rock centuries ago. The logic is absolutely fine. Many of which are chiseled is talking about the closest noun, hundreds of monasteries. There's no problem with the logic in this sentence. But why this sentence loses to choice E? Because that's the only choice that we have, and choice E is the correct answer. It is incorrect because, again, the verb used here. Look at this one. Look at this phrase over here. It says that these monasteries were chiseled centuries ago. The monasteries came into existence centuries ago, an action that took place in the past. If we are to talk about an action that took place in the past, we don't use simple present tense for that. We use simple past tense for that. So the usage of simple present tense are chiseled is incorrect because the action of chiseling is done and over. In the past, it was done centuries ago. So we cannot use simple present tense in this sentence. That's what makes choice D incorrect. Now let's take a look at, okay, we have a few examples over here. Most patients coming to the ER are admitted into the intensive care unit. When we say are admitted, we are talking about the current situation. But if we were to add this particular phrase in this sentence saying on April 2020, a time period which has already gone by, for that action, we cannot use are admitted. We have to use were admitted. That's the difference between the present tense action and the past tense action. So it is very, very necessary to use correct verb tenses to present the action in proper fashion, okay, to get the logical meaning. We have a few more examples that you can take a look at, but that is what was incorrect with choice D. Choice E indeed is the correct answer. It presents all the aspects, it presents all the logical meaning correctly. Everything is logical in this sentence. Many of them chiseled from solid rock centuries ago. Many of them, again, this descriptor is talking about the closest noun over here, which is monasteries. So from the meaning perspective, again, choice D was also meaning wise correct. No issues with that, but it used wrong grammar. And then again, of course, meaning changed because the action of chiseling has already been done in the past, right? So that was incorrect. But in choice E, many of them chiseled from solid rock centuries ago. We already know that the action has already taken place centuries ago. Okay, so choice E indeed is the correct answer. But as you can see, if you did not pay attention to, so what I would say here is that logic and grammar go hand in hand. Of course, logic is the key, but grammar is the tool to present that logic correctly to us. Okay, let me ask you this question. Are you all clear about why choice D is incorrect and why choice E is correct? So Diksha, you ask, would the usage of which plus past tense form of are be correct to describe the number of monasteries? Not to describe the number of monasteries, Diksha. The question is to tell when the action of chiseling took place. Yes, if in choice D we use were chiseled, then choice D would have been correct. Yes, that is correct. Can them refer to mountainous region, Gerald? No, not at all, because We have a modifier which is placed next to hundreds of monasteries. I mean, that's why choice A was wrong, because in that version of the sentence, many of them chiseled is placed next to the mountains regions, right? So that's why we had that meaning error. But when we pick this modifier up and place it close to hundreds of monasteries, then the meaning is absolutely clear. We don't need anything else. I mean, them does refer to hundreds of monasteries. Then there is no question of any ambiguity about them. Make sense? All right. So I just have a little, just one slide on the structure of the sentence, because many of the students do think about it. Now, many of which are chiseled and many of them chiseled. One with the verb, another one without the verb. Both the structures are correct. Both the structures, the way they have been used in the sentence, are correct. However, it is just this verb that makes choice D incorrect. If we, as I said before, if we turn R into word, then choice D will also become correct. So structurally, both structures are fine. It's just that the grammar of choice D that makes choice D incorrect. Make sense? Now, all of us, yes or no? Do we all understand why choice E is right? Great. I can see a lot of yeses coming in, so that's a good sign. Good. Okay. So let's quickly take a look at the takeaway. Again, something that we have been repeating on over and over again. Pay attention to the meaning. We faced a question right now in which the original sentence did not present the logical meaning. However, the context will have enough information for us, and this will work for every sentence. Okay, the context will have enough information for us to put 2 plus 2 together, to derive what the logical intended meaning can be from the given information. So what you have to do is that you'll have to take an extra step to infer that meaning from the given information. Okay, so that's our key takeaway from this sentence. So quick observation. With this sentence, we saw again the entire sentence was underlined, but we did not really care for what portion of the sentence was underlined. All we kept focusing on was the intended meaning. We created a framework that, hey, many of them chiseled must be talking about hundreds of monasteries. That was our focus. And with that focus on, without bothering about that the entire sentence was underlined, we just kept checking each and every answer choice on the basis of the framework, of our logical framework, and we rejected every answer choice that did not fit into the context and the logical context of the sentence. Yes, of course, to reject choices C and D, we used our grammar as well, because the incorrect grammar again interfered with the logic of the meaning, logic of the sentence. Okay? So with this, are we all ready for the last question? And this is a very, very interesting question. Are we all ready for our last question? And before we do so, I would just like to bring in this point to your notice. You see a question on your screen. Now, I really don't need an answer to that question. This is something for you to introspect, okay? You all are familiar with OG official guide, and there are other forums through which you can access solutions to these difficult questions in OG, especially with the OG Advanced Edition and the difficult questions that we keep getting in new editions. But think about it. Have you ever gotten this kind of detailed solutions for every question that we deal with, the way we present it? We not only tell you the approach, but we We hold your hand, take you through each and every answer choice. So through our approach, what do? We teach you how to read the sentence first. You cannot read a long sentence with 30, 35, 40, 45 words in one go. That's called information overload. You will never be able to understand the sentence in that flow if you read the entire sentence in one go. So we teach you first how to first read a sentence. Because in order to get anything out of the sentence, you need to read it right first, right? So that's what we do. We first teach you how to read the sentence, and that is by strategic pausing. You break the sentence into smaller pieces, you deal with every chunk one at a time, and then you assimilate the meaning and put everything together to understand the intended story that the author wants to present. And then what do? Once we understand the intended meaning, which is the key to ace GMAT SC, that only then we go through the grammar, and then we find out that, okay, these are the grammatical errors that we need to fix as well. And then on that basis, so we are done with choice A already, right? And by doing such a thorough analysis, that is what we did with many of the, with question number 3. When we focused on the meaning, we exactly knew what we were looking for in our correct answer choice. We needed that many of them chiseled to be talking about monasteries and not about mountainous regions. So we already knew what we are looking for in our correct answer choice. And after that, the answer choice analysis becomes a cakewalk, right? So this only e-GMAT does. The way we teach you the approach to do GMAT SC, nobody else will do. Probably other prep companies, they just give you a lot of rules, and that is why the grammar, we are in this notion that it is the grammar that I need to learn all the concepts to ace GMAT SC. I guess we are the only GMAT prep company that tells you that no, you need to focus on meaning, because that is what you need to communicate. You just use grammar as the tool to present that meaning. Okay. And yes, and we proved the efficacy of our approach already on 3 official questions, and we are going to repeat it again with this last question in the session. So please let me bring in the poll, and I need all of you to mark still solving, at least those who would be solving this question with me. And this is our last question. Very interesting question. Very, very interesting question. So do participate. We are going to extract good learning from it. Few more. Do not click on A through E. Please click on still solving, because you have not seen the question yet. Few more. Let's take that number 200. Okay, I guess I am ready to show you the question. Okay, here is your question number 4. Take a good look. Keep your logical hat on. Okay, so 30 seconds. Let's find this. Last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, closing the poll here. Okay, 3 people I still see still solving. You just want to mark any answer choice and move on with this. If not, then let me end the poll here. All right. Okay. Before I get into the discussion of this question, how many of you are 100% confident of your choice? Just say yes or no. How many of you are 100% confident that yes, this is it, no other answer choice? How many of you? I just want to understand that bit. Okay, so I do see that people who chose some answer choices, they are not really confident, but okay, let's see. Okay, so let's get started with this one. The sentence says about 5 million acres in the United States have been invaded by leafy spurge. So a certain kind of leafy spurge, so I can definitely say it's a kind of a plantation or a vegetation that has covered a huge area in the United States. A herbaceous plant from Eurasia with milky sap that gives mouth sores to cattle. Okay, so this leafy spurge, now we see a lot of description about leafy spurge. What is this leafy spurge? It is a herbaceous plant with milky sap. So this plant also contains milky sap, and this milky sap gives mouth sores to cattle. Then we have displacing grasses. Okay, that's one point. And the next point talks about rendering the range land worthless. Okay, so when we talk about rendering the range land worthless, what does it mean? The grazing ground are made absolutely useless. Okay, so if we are to draw out the aspects, that is the key meaning from this sentence, we understand that the sentence is talking about leafy spurge that has covered a huge area in United States. And then the sentence talks about, it gives us some more information about this leafy spurge. It is a herbaceous plant, came from Eurasia. It has milky sap, and then this milky sap gives mouth sores. So far, till this point, the sentence is absolutely logical. Okay, nothing, no problem in that. Everything goes fine. But look at these two portions in the sentence. We have two modifiers here which actually present cause and effect. So what is the cause? The cause is that milky sap gives mouth sores to cattle. So what is the effect of this action? The effect of this action is that because milky sap gives mouth sores to cattle, it displaces grasses and other cattle food. Now you tell me, is this meaning even logical? Take to yes or no poll and let me know. Does it make any sense to say that because milky sap gives mouth sores to cattle, by doing this action, it results in displacing grasses and other cattle food? I mean, what is the connection between mouth sore and grasses and other cattle food getting displaced? No logical sense at all, right? So again, you and I are logical people. We can put 2 plus 2 together, so we understand that, hey, this cause and effect just does not make sense. Okay, so that's the first effect. Then the second effect. that we read here is that rendering rangeland worthless. Does this effect make sense? So what is the sentence saying? Because milky sap gives mouth sores to cattle, by doing this, it results in rendering the rangeland worthless. How does it even make sense that because milky sap gives mouth sores to cattle, the grazing ground becomes useless? Only those cows or only those cattle will not eat for some time who have mouth sore, maybe. But does it mean that the grazing ground becomes useless? No, it does not. Other cattle who are all healthy and nice, they will still go out to graze in that. So how mouth sores is even related to making the grazing grounds useless? Another absolutely illogical effect of milky sap giving mouth sores. Okay, so all of you understand this part? We are all on the same page when we say that the cause and effect just does not make sense? Great. Clearly, a lot of you are giving me the positive answers. Okay. Now, what do we have here? The sentence presents illogical meaning, okay? But the sentence has a lot of information. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to break this sentence down and try to understand as to what can make logical meaning in this sentence. Let me get rid of these old annotations so that I can use some new ones. Okay, so milky sap giving mouth sore makes sense. Okay, now I'm opening a poll here. Answer this question. What can displace grasses and other cattle food? If you think about this point logically, and if I ask you this question, what is this entity in the sentence that can displace? I'm sure all of you understand the meaning of the word displace, right? So what can logically displace grasses and other cattle food? The answer is leafy spurge. Absolutely correct. One kind of vegetation displaces or takes place of another vegetation, which is leafy spurge in this question. Absolutely correct. Now, think a little bit more and tell me how grazing grounds can become worthless. How can they become useless? How can they become useless? Any guesses? By being invaded? Okay. By leafy spurge? Close, but I'm looking for a little more invasion. Displacement of food. Absolutely correct. By displacing grasses and cattle food. Bingo. So you see, when I am forcing you to put that logic through the context of the sentence, you are able to get that. We already know that 5 million acres have been invaded by leafy spurge. So if leafy spurge displaces grasses and cattle food, then obviously the rangeland or the grazing grounds will become useless, because now the cattle will not go to those grazing grounds to eat anything, because they know that if they'll eat leafy spurge, they are going to get mouth sores. Okay, so that when the leafy spurge displaces grass and other cattle food, the entire grazing ground becomes useless, because now the cattle cannot eat that plant in that area, in those grounds. Okay, so the logical cause and effect should be that rendering rangeland worthless should actually be the effect of the cause displacing grasses. This should be the cause displacing grasses, and that's why the rangeland becomes worthless. Okay, so is this intended meaning clear? Logical aspect 3, is this clear to all of you? Is this part clear? We are all following that how did we establish this? All right, very good. So now what did we do? Even when the sentence presented illogical meaning, we broke the sentence down, we extracted the context, we extracted the information, and again, just like our puzzle pieces, we put together the logical pieces to understand the meaning, and now we have a framework. We exactly know what we are looking for. So displacing should be talking about leafy spurge. It should not be related to milky sap. And rendering rangeland worthless should be the effect of the action displacing grasses. This is exactly what we need to correct logically in this sentence. Now, grammatically, is there any flaw in this sentence? No. Actually, there is no flaw grammatically in this sentence. It uses all the modifiers correctly. It uses everything that it requires. However, the sentence is incorrect because, again, logic is not there. And keep in mind, dear students, difficult questions play on logic. They don't play on grammar. The sentence, the more difficult sentences that you get, you will see that they play more and more on this logical aspect and not so much on the grammatical aspect. Because if you know your grammar well, you will still be able to figure out the grammatical errors. But if you are missing out, if you're only focusing on grammar and not in the meaning, probably you would choose choice A. And let me show the results. I have 20% of the class choosing choice A. You only did so because you did not understand the meaning of the sentence. You did not, took that extra step to break the sentence down, understand the meaning, and put the logical elements together. Okay, moving forward. Choice B, great job. Most of you, 46% of the class did go with choice B. I will talk about a few points in choice B. Remember I asked you how many of you are not sure of your answer choices, and majority of the class, more than 60% of the class said that they were not sure of their answer choice. So let's take a good look at choice B as to why it is correct, and I'm going to dispel some of the inhibitions that you probably had when you looked at choice B. What does it say? 5 million acres in the United States have been invaded by leafy spurge. This is fine. A herbaceous plant from Eurasia. So we are still at aspect 2 with milky sap. Okay, another description that gives mouth sores to cattle. Okay, so now in this version of the sentence, it is saying that it is the herbaceous plant that gives mouth sores to cattle. What is that herbaceous plant? Leafy spurge. So if you thought that, hey, the original sentence said that it is the milky sap that gives mouth sores, but now this version of the sentence is saying that it is the leafy spurge that gave the mouth sore. Well, choice B changes the meaning. I'm not going to go with it. Is this a logical analysis? So let me ask you this. Are leafy spurge and milky sap mutually exclusive entities? Are they mutually exclusive? Leafy spurge is a different entity altogether. Milky sap is a different entity together. So by any chance, if the cattle lick the milky sap, they will get the mouth sore. But if they eat leafy spurge, they will not get the mouth sore. Does this make sense? No, it does not. Why? Because leafy spurge contains milky sap. If cattle eat leafy spurge, the milky sap is going to come out from there and they will get mouth sore. So these two are not mutually exclusive entities. Okay, so it makes total sense in the context of this sentence that yes, if the cattle eat leafy spurge, they will still get mouth sore. The meaning is not changing in any which way because it is the leafy spurge that contains milky sap. So if they eat leafy spurge, the milky sap will be secreted and they'll get mouth sores. So no change in meaning at all. So these are the logical points that you need to pay attention to when you are doing your meaning analysis. What makes sense? What does not make sense? You need to keep asking yourself these questions. Okay, so that is the problem with the sentence. That is the meaning of the sentence that we get with choice B. So no issues at all in terms of meaning. Then what the sentence is saying, that gives mouth sores to cattle and displaces grasses and other cattle food. Now remember, when we did our meaning analysis, we could logically understand that yes, it is the leafy spurge that displaces grasses. Okay, so her herbaceous plant is equal to leafy spurge. So yes, this also makes sense, that the herbaceous plant, which is leafy spurge, that displaces grasses. Okay, so this part of the sentence is also fine. And then at the end, we have this modifier that talks about the effect of displacing grasses, which is absolutely correct again, because during our meaning analysis, we realized that if leafy spurge displace all the grass and cattle food, then of course those grazing grounds will become totally useless, because no cattle will go there to eat milk, to eat leafy spurge. Okay, so choice B is an out and out correct answer with correct grammar, presenting absolutely perfect logic in the context of this sentence. Do you all agree with me? Now do you see why choice B is the correct answer? So next time when you see this question, you can confidently mark the correct answer choice. You don't have to be unsure about, hey, did I make the right choice or not? Okay, make sense? Okay, now let's see why choice C is incorrect. Choice C is saying leafy spurge has invaded whatever a herbaceous plant from Eurasia having milky sap that gives mouth sores to cattle. So this is fine. Milky sap gives mouth sore or leafy spurge gives mouth sore. It's the same thing because leafy spurge contains milky sap. However, and displacing grasses, even if we look at this structure, what is it even connecting with? What is this displacing even connecting with? We don't know. The way the sentence is written in this, the way this part is written in the sentence, we don't know what is it connecting to. So that parallelism is already gone in this sentence. Okay. Also, we don't even know now rendering is the effect of which action. It cannot be the action of gives mouth sores to cattle, because that is what we negated or rejected in the original answer choice. So we don't know what this rendering is the effect of. So the way choice C is written, displacing is not at its right place. It just does not connect logically or grammatically for that matter with any entity in the sentence. And because of this wrong entity before rendering, now rendering fails to connect with any logical cause in the sentence to present the logical cause and effect. Okay, so choice C is incorrect for this reason. Let's take a look at choice D. Choice D has a very blatant error, very blatant error. And this is what I say, that missing verb is the most blatant, most conspicuous error that you can find on GMAT SC. There is no verb for the subject 5 million acres in the United States. See, is there any verb for this particular subject? No. So choice D is out on that basis only, if you saw that. Another error that we see in this one is that here we have a list which says herbaceous plant from Eurasia with milky sap that gives mouth sore. It is talking about milky sap. Then it says that milky sap displaces grasses and other cattle food. That is wrong. Milky sap does not displace grass. We know that. Logically, that's not possible. And renders rangeland useless. Milky sap does not make grazing grounds useless. That's not the right logic. So again, we have the two verbs over here, displaces and renders, that do not make sense with its subject, that which actually talks about milky sap. So choice D is incorrect on this ground as well. Okay. Then let's move on to choice E. Choice E again repeats the same error. The error in this sentence is that about 5 million acres in the United States does not have a verb. So that's our grammatical error in this sentence. Also, this sentence, we have a modification error over here also. Again, this sentence actually repeats all the errors of choice D, just written in a different structure. Milky sap that gives mouth sores to cattle. So giving mouth sores is talking about milky sap. Yes, this part is logical. But then the next part of the sentence says milky sap displaces grasses. That does not make sense at all. Does not make sense at all. So this part, logically, again, this part is incorrect. Once again, we don't know what rendering is talking about. Okay. So choice D, choice E again presents illogical meaning. So choice B, as we saw, was the correct answer for this question. Now, if I were to talk about quick observations from this sentence, from the last sentence that we saw, once again, we looked just like our question 3. Once again, we looked at a sentence that was almost 85% underlined, totally grammatically correct, no issues with grammar whatsoever. But the issue was with the meaning. But even if the original sentence presented illogical meaning, we could figure out the intended logical meaning by extracting the logic from the given information in the sentence. So once again, need to infer meaning is what we must do when we come across a sentence that presents illogical meaning. So the e-GMAT 3-step process works for all sorts of GMAT questions, all sorts of GMAT SC question, no matter which question you go to. Okay. So this was my part, doing these two difficult questions with you guys. I will like to invite back Atreya to look into the last section.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shraddha. Guys, I hope I'm audible. So what I'm going to do is I'm clear all the yes no answers. Can you please mark a yes if you can hear me clearly? All right, just give me one moment, please. So in this section, we are going to talk about some really interesting, facts, and I'm gonna help you understand something, which you need to keep in mind if you want to ace GMAT a sentence correction. So I'm gonna end the poll here, clear all the answers, and let me ask you some few questions. The first question, have you spent more than 35 hours preparing for GMAT sentence correction? If you have, please mark a yes. Let's get to know you people in a much better way. All right, so it's almost at, okay, so I'll see a lot of people who have not spent 35 hours preparing for SC. Now, if you have not spent, and if you feel that you've not wasted the hours, it's really good. So what I'm gonna ask you in the next slide again is do you feel that you are at the 90th percentile in GMAT sentence correction? Please mark a yes or a no. All right. Okay. And then just one moment. Let me clear all the answers from here, and I'll end the poll. Clear all the answers, and I'll reopen the poll with another question. Do you think that a lot of grammar is required for you people to ace GMAT sentence correction? So basically, it did not require a lot of grammar, and that was the reason. That was our agenda for this session. Essentially, we wanted you to understand that logic forms a very substantial part of GMAT sentence correction. You might be very good at grammar, and I'll give you some examples showing people who were really good at grammar but still could not get through GMAT sentence correction, difficult GMAT sentence correction questions. Now, another question, very good question. Before coming to this session, did you use the meaning based approach for solving sentence correction question before coming to this session? All right, and let me end the poll here. I'll clear all the answers. And what do you think right now? After this session, would you use the meaning-based approach to tackle difficult GMAT sentence correction questions? So this is something we wanted you to understand. Grammar is not that important. Grammar is definitely important, but with that, logic forms a very substantial part for you if you want to ace GMAT sentence correction. So what you need to understand is I'll give you examples of two students. Now this is Dr. Rohit Singh Malan. He was a brilliant student. He aced one of the toughest, or shall I say, the most the toughest exam held in India, which is the IAS exam, the Indian Administrative Services. And despite that, he was great at grammar. He knew every rule that grammar could have. Now, basically, even after knowing all the rules, he just could not understand. He was in the 60th to 70th percentile, and then you can see here he was lost between two or three options when he was solving GMAT SC questions. And all those 2-3 options were grammatically perfectly clear, perfectly all right. So that is something that you need to understand. Even options which are incorrect, they might have a proper grammar attached to them. Once you get this idea within yourself, you would start applying. You would be understanding the meaning-based approach in a much better format, applying that approach in your questions, and then you can clearly see the results. He understood the meaning-based approach, used that meaning-based approach, and his verbal score improved from a V32 to a V42. A very, very important thing to note here is, what we also taught you today is the thing that you need to understand is the meaning-based approach would also tell you, even if the grammar is correct in a sentence, they might be having wrong meanings, and that is the reason why even you would after you learn all these things, you can apply that in questions, and you would see that you would be rejecting answer choices which are perfectly okay on grammar on solid grounds because they don't make any meaning. Right. A second example is of Jimmy. Now Jim scored a GMAT 770. But he was stuck at GMAT 700. Now, he struggled with sentence correction, and he also had this thing in mind that I need to get the question correct, and I also need to get that correct under 90 seconds. So then he understood the e-GMAT way of doing sentence correction, and then once he got an idea of that, he could understand the core idea of the sentence. What is the core meaning the sentence is trying to present? And the same way works today itself, today also. So once you understand the meaning of the sentence, once you see answer choices with respect to their meanings and grammar, obviously, then you start negating the wrong answer choices, going to the right answer choice, within 90 seconds with a very high accuracy. Right. So that's something that I want all of you to take a note of. Now, if you're an e-GMAT student, I would say that definitely go through the master comprehension module, because in this module, we teach you how to break down sentences so that you can understand what are the different, use cases, what are the different meanings of the parts of the sentences, because, comprehending the entire sentence at once might seem very difficult for you. Right. And it is in genuinity, it is once you get to that 60-70 percentile, the GMAT testing platform will throw questions which are very difficult to comprehend at one go. So that is the reason we want you to divide sentences into parts, understand those sentences, understand those parts of the sentences, so that you can essentially get to that accuracy level. And once you build on that accuracy, going to that 90 percentile ability in GMAT sentence correction won't be difficult at all. You might now, again, this is a very new approach to a lot of you. I want you to embrace this method. At times you would be very, so I was looking at the Q&A pod and I was seeing a lot of questions around where should I have a comma, is this a parallelism, is this modifier? It's all good, grammar is all good, but again, if you understand that what is the author trying to speak, what is the meaning of the sentence, then it really becomes very easy for you to mark the correct answer choice. Right, so we talked about a lot of concepts even during this session. Right now I want to tell you that uh, to achieve to that 90 percentile ability in GMAT sentence correction, you need to understand, you all already have that 7 major concepts in grammar, but what you need to understand is the 200 plus concepts, what we call are the sentence structures, to understand the sentence structures in a much better format. Once you understand that, and these 200 concepts are subparts for the 7 major concepts that we have in grammar. Now once you understand that, once you start breaking sentences and start, when everything comes in combination, when 2 or 3 out of these 200 concepts come in combination, you would start to understand the meaning of the sentence. Then getting to that correct answer choice would really be very easy. Right, so you need to understand these concepts, not the major concepts of grammar, but these 200 concepts that we talk about, which are a subpart of the 7 major concepts. Now a very quick question: from whichever source you are learning from, and let me clear all the answers in the yes no poll, do you have any evidence that you have mastered the 200 plus SE concepts, or what evidence do you essentially have that you are getting good at a GMAT sentence correction? And I'll also reopen the poll over here, reopen the short answer poll. And I want to ask you people, at any point in time, to get feedback. So you have been preparing for Brooks, you have been preparing from private tutors or other test prep companies. Now, do you have an evidence, or do you get feedback at certain time frames, so that you can understand that, all right, I'm doing good at GMAT sentence correction, or no, I'm not doing good at GMAT sentence correction? See, your answer speak for yourself, right? So what we say is oh, to understand what evidence, and someone has had a question, what are the 200 SE concepts? So what you need to answer is the questions that you are really looking to answer. Is some of the examples of questions that you will be answering is: when do verb ed forms act as verbs versus modifiers? Or essentially, how can you understand the usage of relative pronoun modifiers in a sentence, and the segmentation impact of it? Or let's say, under what scenario would a noun modifier slightly modify the far away nouns? So these are some small key things that you always need to get a hold of. And how do you get a hold of all these things? By practicing more and more questions of these types. So we say that you would be learning about these 200 plus concepts, which are sub concepts rather, by practicing somewhere around 500 GMAT SE questions. And it won't be difficult, because we give you feedback at every stage of your learning process. Now, so what I want to tell you is, you need to have a very dedicated feedback to understand these things. Examples of more complex things, different cases in which the same phrases maybe act as differently in the context of it, and that is where the meaning part really becomes important as far as GMAT SE is correct. Right. So with that, to learn these 200 plus concepts, what we say is the 3-step process, or the 3 stages of learning. The first thing that you need to do is learn all the concepts together. Now, once you learn all the concepts, then you get a feedback. And once you do that, whenever you need reinforcement, you refine them, and then you get so good that you're among the top 10 percentile students. And if you do not get that feedback, even if you're learning day in day out, you're just shooting in the dark. So that's something really important. So I talked to you about feedback, right? So another very quick question. Let me end the poll, clear all the answers, and reopen the poll right here. From whichever source you are studying right now, do you get feedback on your performance? How well are you doing, or what are the things that you need to improve on, from whichever source you are going through, using it for your preparation, or essentially GMAT sentence correction as a whole. So I see a lot of people, and I'm very sure that people who have marked a yes are e-GMAT students, because so there are two places which you can, three places where you can learn from. One is books, and in books we generally say you have around 3 to 4 feedback points, and the feedback points are on concept levels, and they're not that much personalized. The next thing is when you go to a private tutor. Now, if you go to a private tutor, you again have somewhere around 10 to 12 feedback points in the entire point in time, where you can where the tutor would tell you that this is where you need to improve and this is what you're doing correct. Now, at e-GMAT, we while you learn these while you learn these 200 short concepts through the 500 plus examples that I was talking about, you get feedback at more than 100 places. Now, once you get this feedback, this would act as a lifesaver, because this would tell you where you are going wrong, where you can improve, and what are the things that you are weak at, right? So once you inculcate this feedback into your preparation, you are not only now you're not shooting in the dark. Now you have a proper idea on what are the things that you need to work upon, and those 35 hours that I was talking to you about now goes in a very channelized manner in the right processes, in the right direction. And we are very much interested in getting you to the score, to the target score that you want to achieve in the shortest possible amount of time. And that is the reason your method of preparation for GMAT SC, or rather the entire GMAT, should be very channelized, should be in the most proper direction it can be, right? So let's talk about feedback. If you excel in the assessments that we would be essentially sharing with you, or if you're an e-GMAT student, you can access that. So when you excel in these assessments, and then you can be very sure about getting to that 90 percentile, and works both ways. So if you're hitting the metrics, you would be understanding, it would be very sure that yes, you are going to that 90 percentile, and it works in the opposite direction as well. If you're not hitting the metrics, then it really becomes very difficult to get to that 90 percentile, or essentially to score a 730 that I essentially talked about in the starting phase of the session, right? Now, let's talk about application. Once you learn the concepts, and the concepts are really important if you want to do good at GMAT SE, what about applying these concepts? Here at e-GMAT, we want you to learn the application process while you are learning the concepts, and also after you have learned the concepts through application quizzes, through practice quizzes, and also to show you questions where you can learn all the concepts, and all that is done in two ways. One is on some questions we hold your hand and show you, oh, all right, you need to apply these kind of concepts in these kind of questions. The other is when we expect you to apply those concepts, and if you can, well and good. If you cannot, we again give you that feedback to how can you apply the concepts in the next test, or the next quiz that you take. Now, in e-GMAT, if you're an e-GMAT student, you get feedback at least 23 times, and I'm going to show you that. How do we do that? So once you do subject verb, we have quizzes, we have application quizzes, practice quizzes, and there are 2 feedback points. Then you move into a difficult topic, which is verb. We have 3 feedback points in that in that module. And once you go to pronouns, modifiers, or other parts of grammar with increasing level of difficulty in the concepts, we give you feedback, a very personalized feedback on what do you need to do and where you are lacking at. Now, once you use this feedback, getting to that 90 percentile would first take very less time. Second, you are expending your energy in the right direction, and that's what we want you to do, because we don't want you to study for 200 hours for nothing, right? So that is something that you always have to keep in mind, if you want to excel in GMAT SC, or the entire GMAT as a whole. And we have built this from scratch, and we are the only test prep company in this entire universe who has built this technology from scratch, because we care for our students. And we are also the only test prep company who has 50 plus full-time employees working day in and day out to ensure that you people get the best of the best technology infused with the learning methodologies that we have to get to that to get to that target verbal score or the target quant score of yours in the shortest possible amount of time. Now let's look at another student and let's see how feedback helps the student get to a 90th percentile. We'll talk about a student Sahil, and he got a GMAT 730 with a Q49 and a V38 in record time. Now, if you look, so this is essentially the student dashboard for him. If you look here, is he did not score much in subject verb, but then what he did is he applied the concepts what he learned before, and then you can see the timings here. He used almost an hour, and these are essentially normal files that would not take you long. So he invested a lot of time in learning, and he infused that feedback what we gave it to him, and then with that a complete whole package came out. So once he understood the processes, getting to that score, you can see here he was getting consistent scores in difficult quizzes. So if you're an e-GMAT student, you would know that the last number of quizzes are the most difficult quizzes in the entire module. So this is something that we want you to understand. Now, so here, if you can see, we have shown 21 minutes. So this is not the time. This is essentially the time the student takes to see the concept, and this 100% essentially means that not that he has seen the entire video, but essentially that he has scored 100% in the basic quiz that we have given, or in the concept quiz that we have given to him to take. Right, so this data, when you see this data, and everyone who is an e-GMAT student, this is visible on your platform. Once you see that data, things start becoming very clearer to you, and you understand where do you need to work. Right, let's take another example of the same student, and let's focus on this example. Now, he got a 60 percentage in the application quiz, and this is a quiz. Remember, we have somewhere around 7 to 10 questions in a quiz, which shall take you somewhere around 20 minutes, not more than that. So after 20 minutes, you can see he almost spent 46 minutes here, 47 minutes here. So he used that feedback that we gave him, not only the solutions that we asked them to go through, but also that these are the pointers where you need to work upon. He invested a lot of time, and he invested a lot of time. That is the reason why we see that in the practice quiz, which is a difficult quiz than the application quiz, he scored a perfect 100%. So these are small things that you need to inculcate within yourself. We call these as good habits. The more good habits that you bring into the picture, the better it becomes for you to get to that 90th percentile, and the quicker it becomes to getting to that 90th percentile. Right, and if you can see here, whenever he scored low, he took a lot of time to analyze. Now in this quiz, you can see that he only scored a 64 percentage. So let's see what did he do in this quiz. Now he got two questions correct, two questions incorrect, question number 6 and question number 8, and he bookmarked those questions for revision. So these are some good habits. Whenever you get whenever you see some wrong questions at your end, then what we want you to do is revise those questions. What are the reasons that you got those questions incorrect? Obviously, we will be providing you good solutions through which making that same error would never be a case. But also the feedback that we give you, that these are the two questions incorrect because you faltered in these two topics or these two sub concepts. But that feedback is very important. Once you know that you are not being able to understand the meaning, or let's take an example of once you know that you're not being able to understand parallelism, then you learn parallelism again, right? And then start applying those concepts that you have learned in the questions that you solve. So this is something that you need to inculcate, embrace within yourself if you want to get to that target GMAT score of yours. Right, again, you can see his GMAT debrief as well on GMAT Club. Now he took the feedback very seriously, and he took the corrective actions just at the right time. Not only that, even if you see the video debriefs from the students that we had previously, and you can go to our YouTube channel and understand what did they do, you can understand, get a hold of things, you'd start understanding that feedback is really very important. That hand holding part during the early stages of learning is really very important if you want to get to the target GMAT score of yours. So you can log into YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel to learn more about these videos. And if you so we have more than 130 videos on our channel. As I have already told you, they're really very motivating. If you want to view them, you can just log into YouTube and you can access those videos from there, right? Now, so getting to that 730, and for that $500,000 return on investment, if you remember, during this first stage of this presentation. Now, what you need to do, there are three things that I would want you people to follow. First is go to your e-GMAT free trial, log in into your account, attempt the concept files in your free trial, then solve every question using the meaning-based approach. Now, the meaning-based approach was pioneered by us almost a decade ago, and since then, every person who struggled in GMAT sentence correction followed this approach. Who followed this approach, got tremendously positive results out of it. So I want you people to embrace this method. It might seem a bit new to you, but once you get a hold of this, you would really understand GMAT SE questions in a much better way. Then, as I told you, you need to excel on those 200 plus sub-concepts that GMAT tests, and for that you need to solve questions in that manner, and you need to apply those concepts, when they come in combination in a GMAT SE question. And then once you do that, you need to understand that to achieve excellence, you also need a proper feedback system. Without feedback, you're just shooting in the dark. You don't want to do that. You don't want to expend your energy in the wrong direction. So channelize that, take it to the right direction, and I'm pretty much sure that you would do really well. Right? Okay, so this brings us to the end of